Hey guys, this is Alessio Summerfield, the host of Metal Gear Mondays, and you are listening to a backlog episode of Metal Gear Monday. So if you guys hear any mention of Geek Time, the Geek Time network is since defunct, and now Metal Gear Mondays is a part of the original lineup of podcast shows from Forever and Astronaut. If you guys want to take advantage of our Patreon to get really cool exclusive content and speak with other fans, as well as talk directly to the hosts and the guests, you can go to patreon.com/foreveranastronaut. $5 a month on Patreon will get you access to all of our original shows, including Dev Diary Season 1 and future shows. So if you want to support the studio and support content like what you're listening to, please be sure to go to patreon.com/foreveranastronaut or foreveranastronaut.com to check out the rest of our lineup of shows, as well as short films, blog posts, and other goodies. If you want to write into the show, the new write-in information is contact@foreveranastronaut.com, or you can utilize the facebook.com/Metal Gear Mondays. Thank you guys so much, and enjoy the episode. Welcome to episode 2 of Metal Gear Mondays. I am Alessio Summerfield.
I'm Sam Wright.
Cameron.
And Isaac.
This is going to be a running thing. Like, the two of us are like, last name.
Yeah, who knows?
Oh.
But regardless, this is episode 2.
Irregardless.
I think you guys are a little too eager to hand out like really personal information over the internet. I've actually deleted my Facebook account, and I've changed all my passwords to a couple things, and I played through a couple
The
proxies.
internet at large has known our last name for the last 4 years.
Oh, probably longer than that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I changed all my passwords to Fox Die, all capitals. So if you guys want, just go ahead and try it out. And we may find out about that in this episode. However, I'm going to be honest with everybody. Just to refresh my memory, I may have to pull up like a walkthrough just to make sure.
Yeah, this is where my memory of the game is a little fuzzy.
Hold on real quick. Isaac, what the fuck did you just share?
What are you talking about?
Okay, that's going in the show notes just because I need somebody to tell me what I'm fucking looking at right now.
What the actual fuck is that? Is that Hideo Kojima?
It looks like it, but I don't think it is. Alright, for everybody at home, it is totally just a picture of somebody sitting on a toilet and then somebody aimed towards a toilet.
But it's the same guy, so I don't know which one is step one.
Well, it's like one of those Japanese mangas. You read it from right to left. So I imagine that.
Or it's like the new iOS 9 update.
It's like, no, I think I understand what's happening. Like, it's a toilet for handicapped people, so like the bars are so you can get on the toilet, and there's no you see how there's like a gap in between the bowl and the back of it, so they can spin around on the toilet and be able to sit on it like a proper person.
Like a
Yeah.
proper
And it's a
fucking
sink
person.
too. It's a sink too, so you can wash your hands without getting up.
Fucking cripple, you better sit like a proper fucking person. The way you said proper person, I'm sorry.
Good goddamn.
I'm really not that mean. Like I feel like I've said some vulgar things in the past hour, but
Don't listen to him. Alright, so let's go ahead and get back on topic real fast.
No.
Like the wind.
So real quick, just to give a shout out, because I don't want to use something without citing it. This shout out goes out to Bilbo Boy.
What?
Because I'm using his Metal
What
Gear
the
Solid.
fuck did you just call me?
I'm using his Metal Gear Solid FAQ walkthrough to double check my memory. But yes, Bilbo Boy on GameFAQs.com.
All right, Bilbo Boy.
Thanks, Bilbo Boy.
I had to check Bilbo Boy once.
Bilbo Boy. Ahoy, hoy, hoy.
Oh.
Oh man. Okay.
Isaac, did you ever have to use a walkthrough?
Oh, like halfway through, I was, on the GameFAQs site
Good question.
the whole time. Yeah.
Did you use a walkthrough?
Thank
Cameron?
you, Alessio. I appreciate that you acknowledge that my question was a valid question.
Senpai
Oh,
noticed
it was-
me today.
It was better than valid. It was good.
It was mainly for figuring out the bosses because I had a lot of trouble with them. All of them.
All of them?
It would seem like. Well, not all of them.
We're
but
close to our first one.
Yeah, I don't think I ran into too much trouble. But really quickly to answer your question, I only had to check a guide once. And this, I will mention this later.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. You guys are both dickheads for not checking me as the guide.
At this time, you were at a concert. So I felt like I shouldn't text you. You were having time with your significant other.
With my waifu?
You got to understand something here. Alessio just told us last episode that he interrupted their dinner to watch a Persona 5 trailer. So I think that you probably could have messaged him at a concert and asked about Metal Gear Solid.
Just put all caps Metal Gear Solid at the top of the text.
Urgent Metal Gear Solid. Assistance required.
Just start everything with like codec 142.78 and then he knows
Colonel.
Like, yo, fuck Colonel. Side note.
So after the DARPA chief has his little heart palpitation and dies, we exit the cell. Meryl's all like creeping and hiding, and I did this shit where when the door first opened, I was like, I'm not gonna go out there. I know what's gonna go down. I'm gonna hang out in here. I'm gonna look around. So I just hung out in the prison cell for a little while, and then finally I stepped out because I was like, the game is not gonna continue until I get out of the cell. And then there's a little shootout at the door.
What are you waiting for? Shoot!
Don't talk to me like a rookie.
And it sounds like you guys had some similar experiences, Cameron and Isaac. Can you tell me a little bit about the shootout mini-boss?
Was this a boss?
Well, no, it's not like an official boss, but it's kind of like a little mini.
It's like an intro.
Mini boss. Yeah.
Well,
it's a little scripted event, if you will.
Back from the episode 1, I guess. I think I said I had trouble in the beginning, so I didn't know how to work the gun very well, and I died quite a bit, and then Alessio came to the rescue and helped me out, and that was my experience with the mini boss.
Did it work? I'm pretty sure I just did. Oh yeah, I saw you beat it. Never
yeah,
mind.
you told me how to do it, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because I was like,
what about you, Cameron?
trying to aim and then hit the fire, and that didn't work. So
I had a different experience because I could not call upon the Alessio-kun.
ooh.
Now,
I need to give you guys just a whistle that has like MGS like carved into it.
I need a little flute, like a little White Ranger to play for you. Like,
You play.
It's like the dress sound like he's summoning the Dragon Zord, like.
but like the flute signal is gonna be like Schism from Tool, and be like. But
And then I come out of the ground at your feet.
But all right, so this is.
I hear you needed help with Metal Gear. How may I be of assistance?
Anytime it's like on Metal Gear related, you're like heavily penalized for calling upon Alessio-kun. But all right.
It's like, I'm sorry, Alessio Senpai. Gomenasai.
I steal your firstborn. Sorry. Continue, Cameron. I apologize.
If you steal my firstborn, is my next my firstborn? And what happens if I call upon you again?
You'll have to read the contract for that.
All right.
Oh god, nobody reads that.
Send me that in PDF form because I definitely skipped over some things.
Will do.
All right, my experience with this was I died a shit ton, and I could not grasp the concept of whatever the hell Metal Gear shooting thing is, and I still don't understand. Like I had a lot of problems with this in the future, but eventually I was like, hold on, maybe Snake is giving me literal advice when he's talking to Meryl, and he just says shoot, and I just like started rapidly mashing the button and moving the controller, and eventually everyone died.
Sounds like a pretty legit show.
And it eventually worked out, but like at the end of it, I was like, wow, I feel like that was a tutorial on how to shoot and aim, but I didn't do it, so I am now fucked for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's weird. So the way that it kind of works is like when you're generally facing the enemy's direction, if you very lightly like hold or tap, I think it's tapping. If you tap and you're facing the enemy, he'll just like auto target. And every time you tap after that, he's like locked to that position.
Okay, I felt like there was. I felt like any time that that I auto locked, like there was a little bit of a delay in between like auto locking onto the next target, and in between that time of me auto locking onto the next target, I would get shot and I would have to like kind of reset everything. And I felt like of the 2 rations that I had at that point, like I didn't know how valuable they were at the time. I didn't want to lose any. So I just said, let me go all the way. And I did.
Yeah, I know they drop ammo and rations when they die. The guards, like all of them,
It was
in that section.
It was a little random. I think like I was getting a mixture of ammo and rations, but yeah. I mean, I found that out like after I decided to go really hard and just like mash the button like I was playing Call of Duty or something.
Real quick question: everybody, raise your hand if you got blown up by the grenades. I think we all raised our hands.
That's me audibly raising my hand.
Yeah, that shit, like, it would always happen so fast where it was like, grenades! And then it'd just be like, oh, what? And then, and I was like, ah, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Because you had to, like, run up to the door. But yeah, I don't know. I guess another strategy would be, like, you could literally press up against the wall and then, like, aim down like you're trying to shoot all 3 dudes with 1 bullet. And you could just, like, fucking mash that square button, which becomes a theme later on. Though I think it's the circle button. But yeah, so after that, in my notes here, I kind of skipped a step. There's an entire fucking boss fight that I skipped over.
Yeah, wow. I'm looking at your notes and shit, you missed a lot.
Yeah, I just turned
Revolver fucking Ocelot?
Yeah, like arguably one of the most important characters in the whole series.
Spoiler alert. Shit.
Oh, shit, dog.
I thought he was a scrub.
But you go down to floor B2 and you are, I can't remember exactly what you're looking for. I think you're still looking for the Arms Tech president.
Yeah, Baker.
What is his first name?
Kenneth.
Kenneth Baker. There we go. I was going to say Troy Baker, but that isn't.
No, that's not correct.
Yeah. Though Ocelot and Troy Baker, those connect fairly well.
Really?
Ocelot is voiced by Troy Baker in later games.
Oh my god.
Or in latest games.
Specifically one game.
Yeah.
He also voiced Joel in The Last of Us, in Talion, in the Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor.
And also Kanji Tatsumi in Persona 4.
And also Jack Mitchell in Call of Duty Advanced War.
Keep going, guys.
And also Drake's brother in New Uncharted.
And this is the end of this. And Snow in Final Fantasy 13.
Not the end of it. And also Joker. Origins.
Double takes back.
And also, he did multiple things for, and now it doesn't give specific names. Never mind, that's already too long. Just cut that.
And also, Ocelot and Metal Gear Solid, we're back.
We're back, full circle, baby. All right, so anyway, you go down to floor B2, and I helped Isaac with this part as well. You're going around the armory, you're like, fuck, I know that Kenneth Baker is here, why is he not here? And then Colonel Campbell's like, Snake, you're taking too fucking long. I hear that they paved over the old wall where there was a room with some new materials. And Isaac was like, is it this? And it was actually really funny. Isaac kept pointing out like every little minute crack in the wall. He was like, is it this? Is it this? And I was like, no, Isaac, it's not any of those things. Like, go to first person mode. Like, you can tell. And I guess the color palette of the game makes it a little hard to tell. But there's like a little wall that you can blow out.
Well, I used to subscribe to you knock on the wall and it sounds different.
Yeah, it does. And I told Isaac that as well. Cameron, did you have any trouble with it?
Actually, the knock on the wall thing played a really big part in where I was in Metal Gear 1. While I was playing this, because what I was doing is on the Vita, I was playing Metal Gear 1 while I was at work. I was not working, and I was getting paid.
You listen to this, Cameron?
I was getting paid to play Metal Gear 1, which was really interesting. That's a crazy dynamic. But so I was getting paid to play Metal Gear 1, and then I would come home and I was playing Metal Gear Solid. Sadly, I was not getting paid for this portion. Which is, of the experience. But there was the knock on the wall. Like, there's a particular point in the game with a character named Grey Wolf, which was really cool for me to experience that before I played Metal Gear Solid.
Gray Fox.
Gray Fox. Yeah, didn't I say that?
You said Gray Wolf.
Shit. Gray Fox. Edit that in.
Thanks.
I thought like there was a character named Grey Wolf that I didn't know existed for a second.
Yeah, dude, this newbie's dropping some knowledge on you. Like the very first thing that I said, like I'm the newcomer. I just graduated from
So
college.
fresh, so hot.
I've got
If
shit
it was
you
an
don't even
anime-
know about.
If it was an anime, Cameron would actually be schooling all of us.
But no, like so there's the knocking on the walls, but I definitely know what Isaac is talking about. I ran around in circles for a couple of times and was like, wow, this shit looks really similar. This is the first time that I kind of had to use the first person view aside from the vents. But yeah. I lost my point. I'm
Sweat.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
I feel like I
We'll
had
jump in on you.
too much alcohol up to this point. And I'm still looking at pictures of Troy Baker, and I'm just wondering, like,
He's a beautiful man.
wow, this guy, like, obviously has heavily invested in his appearance. And, like, what is it to be like that? I've never experienced being like that. I don't know, just caring
That's
so
both
much
like
about
I
what
feel like
I
there's
look
like a burn, like a diss and a compliment at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's cool that he has something that he's so dedicated to, but what it is so fucking vain. It's shitty. But
He
anyway,
probably thinks this podcast's about him.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's going to listen to all of it.
I-
And he's going to be like,
I-
I really hope they mention me. I hope they really mention me, Troy Baker.
Diving back in. So Revolver Ocelot.
Special Operations Foxhound. Revolver Ocelot.
You blow up all the walls, and you're like, shit, I can't use my radar here. And I felt a little paralyzed. How did you guys feel?
Like, how do you mean paralyzed?
Just like not having the radar makes me feel naked.
Oh,
in
yeah.
MGS1.
Naked Snake.
Naked Snake.
I felt naked later having having my radar jammed. At this point, I don't think it really affected me because I looked on and you're kind of in like a singular hallway. So I didn't feel it up until later.
So you go in and you see the Armstech president, and he's all like, I'm old and tied to this pillar, and don't touch me because it will make all the C4 go off. And Snake's like, C4? Because he likes to repeat everything that everybody says back to them.
Which is something we haven't touched on.
Metal Gear.
Yeah. You knew?
The game's called fucking Metal Gear Solid.
But yeah, Snake's got a really bad habit of like, Snake, what are you doing out in the snow? And he's like, in the snow. Like he just like repeats the last two words of everyone's sentences back to them. So we encounter our first boss. His name is Revolver Ocelot, and he steps out of the shadows and he's like, you must be the intruder everyone's been talking about, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I'm going to tell you the history of this fucking pistol because it's rad. And he's like, it's got 6 bullets, but that's all I need. And Cameron made the astute point that motherfucker reloads his gun like 100 times during the fight.
Yeah, I
so-
was really upset that he wasn't upset.
But yeah, how was everyone's experience fighting Revolver Ocelot?
Do you know how many fucking times I died trying to figure out
I hear
what
that
to
a
do?
lot. I just punched him to death.
What?
Yeah.
How'd you catch up to him?
I just run after him, and when he stops to reload, I just like kick him 3 or 4 times.
That didn't work for me.
Because I follow the traditional, like you're supposed to put the C4 in the corners and blow him up and then shoot him. And then like I've struggled with the idea that, well, the C4 blows up the president because I'm too close to the bomb, so I got to put him far away. And it's just... Oh.
Yeah, mine was a bit different. Like, I realized that I immediately tried the C4 and it blew up the president. So I was like, oh, C4 isn't an option. And quickly I realized that there is a pattern in, like, in relation to where you are, he will keep running, but if you stop, he'll stop. So I would stop for, like, a split second, and then I could run. And it was, I don't know, it was painfully easily. Not painfully, that's a wrong word. It was ridiculously easy to beat this boss.
Yeah, I will say shooting the SOCOM blindly, you can trigger the C4, which fucking sucks, because I've done that a couple times way back, like whenever I was just playing through it a bunch. So yeah, but yeah, again, a boss fight that becomes totally trivialized in the Twin Snakes. So
how do they do it? Because I don't remember twins like anything.
you can
about
literally
Twin
just swap to first person and pop him in the head like 3 times without taking a step.
Snakes. Seriously?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like,
sucks.
yeah, you can literally just like wait for him to stick his head out from behind a pillar and just keep shooting him in the face. But yeah, so obviously this game was not designed to be played completely in first person, so that's probably part of the problem. But yeah, so the ninja comes out of nowhere. Snake's like, a ninja? And then the ninja cuts off Revolver Ocelot's hand, and he's like, my hand! And then the ninja just like fucking cuts the president of ArmsTech clean off of the thing, which again in Twin Snakes is totally ridiculous. The ninja's like, fuck cutting all these things. I'm going to cut the building in half, which he totally does, and it's bananas.
God bless Dennis Dyack, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. So anyway, ArmsTech president's like blah 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 blah. Metal Gear, take this optical disc, and essentially you're left there. The ArmsTech president dies of a heart attack again, and if you didn't if you didn't catch it the first time, everybody's like, why does everybody keep dying of heart attacks? And so suddenly,
does that look like a bullet wound to me?
But yeah, and then you can shoot the colonel in the head. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so at this point, I'm actually interested specifically with Cameron and Isaac, but also with you, Sam. So at this point, you're kind of left to your own devices, and you have no fucking clue what to do except for these vague hints that, like, hey, you just got an optical disc, and everybody keeps saying, call Meryl, her codec's on the back of the case. So for me as a kid, I was like, it must be on the back of the optical disc. Let me check out the summary in the inventory, and it didn't fucking say anything. So I was really confused. What did you guys do, I guess, in this situation? Because it took me forever to realize, oh, wait, he means the actual fucking game case.
Well, I had... actually, you spoiled it for me, so I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I told Isaac, I was like, dude, you're going to get real frustrated. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. And we found it in the manual.
There isn't actually a digital manual in the PSN version, so that's pretty cool.
Man, Isaac spamming the Alessio whistle.
Hey, I did not call that one though.
That one that was a
That
freebie.
one. Oh, thanks, Alessio.
Alessio Senpai spammed his own whistle.
Well,
I'll
the
blame
freebie
him.
has been used, and immediately whenever I first started this game, Alessio said, hey, by the way, you're going to be frustrated at this point in the game. So,
Yep.
yeah, that happened, but like I've mentioned before, it was another one of those, like, mind-blowing facts from way back that when people were like, oh, you haven't played this game, it does something so crazy like this. So to me, that was already ruined, and I knew that it was in the manual of the PS4, the PS3 version. So I just immediately checked that, and that was good.
What about you, Sam?
I actually remember vividly how I figured it out because I had the box, and I remember it was sitting on a table next to me because I was playing in the living room, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And this was at a time where hopping on the internet and looking it up was not feasible or like a thing to do. So I just got so mad. I turned on the codec and I like flipped the case off of the table and threw it across the room. And I
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, I was mad, dude. I was 8. I was mad.
It's hardcore.
And it landed with the face down, and I was mad. So I went outside for like an hour, and I came back, and I was calm. And I picked up the case, and I looked at the back of the box, and I saw Meryl in the number, and I was like, you must be joking me right now. And I threw the case again, and I started playing the game again.
I'm going to go ahead and throw out there, apparently it's actually a pretty difficult thing for people to pick up on, because looking at this fucking FAQ from 2003, and I'm going to read this out loud again, this is Bilbo Boy, quote, after all the cutscenes have finished and the president is dead, exit through the door you entered from and go back to the armory. Before you do anything in this area, get out your codec and call Meryl on 140.15. I know her code is supposed to be on the back of the CD case that Baker gave you, But as I have yet to find out how
Oh
to
my
use
God.
the case, I thought I'd better put in Meryl's code before I get tons of emails asking me what Meryl's code is.
Damn.
Well, how did he know? Wow.
So he literally probably just looked it up online. But
Yeah.
that's bananas that he wrote. Like this
In
motherfucker.
2003.
Yeah, he wrote an FAQ, which is like, come to me so that you know what to do. And he doesn't even like know how to do it in the game. That's weird.
You probably did what you did.
Okay, so I have since looked up Bilbo Boys' guide, and I'm kind of following along with it too.
Okay.
I'm excited to see how he describes Psycho Mantis' boss battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome to the Bilbo cast.
Side note on the end of the Bilbo cast. We just started it. It's now. We're finishing it. And this is probably off the record, but like whenever I had to look up the Bilbo cast, I started moving through it, and then he's got an email section, and the email thing was like, send me questions if you're having problems, but if you're sending me anything hateful, I swear to God, don't fucking send it. And it was like if you have anything bad to say about how I wrote my guide, don't send it. If you have any questions that aren't answered or that are previously answered in this guide, do not send it. And like he's got like this whole speech about emails, and it was just I don't know. To me, it was such a weird thing to read. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are already on the BilboCast page, you guys should totally check that out because it's a strange thing to see.
If we follow it up until the end of the game, we will go ahead and read some of those out loud.
Yeah, check that out.
That'll be good. We have level 2 card key. I forgot to mention that you get the level 1 card key from Donald Anderson. Now you have the level 2 card key from the Arms Tech president. And if you discover the secret of Meryl's Kodak number, you will call her, and she will have this very cute animation where she takes the terrorist mask off of her face.
Whoa, dude.
And she talks to you. Well, it's a ski mask or whatever, military mask.
A balaclava, bro.
Oh, that is what that is.
Who are you?
She's like, I'm not supposed to be talking to you right now, but blah, blah, blah. And so you go back up to like the tank hangar, and you realize that one of the tanks are missing. And she also calls to tell you that she's opened the door for you. And you can also discover the thermal goggles if you haven't picked them up. You can grab the SOCOM suppressor if you want to silence your gun, and now you can just straight murder as you choose.
I have a story about that. So you know how they shortened that to SPR or however. So back in
I think
the
it was
day,
like SUP, maybe.
something like that. But back in the day, one of my friends was like, "Yeah, you get that and it makes the SOCOM more powerful." I was like, "What?" "Yeah, it makes it the SOCOM Super." And I was like, "What?" And I bought into it for the
SOCOM.
longest. I didn't understand that it suppressed the shot.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. But yeah, so, and I don't think that is there a limit on the suppressor in MGS1? Or is it just forever suppressed?
I think it's forever. That's
broken as fuck. Okay, but yeah, so in later games, the suppressors kind of have like like an ammo count where it's like after 12 shots it goes away. I think in 2 it does not, but in 3 onward they do. Anyway, so you go past the camera, you go into this little hidey hole, and in this little hidey hole you can either use the thermal goggles, or if you're like me and you did not pick them up the first time, you will have to take out Snake's cigarettes, and you will have
smoke it
to
into a storm.
yeah, you'll have to look for the lasers and sort of determine the best time to run. However, the way that the camera perspective is tilted, it's really fucking hard to tell which lasers you're looking at. So, quick question: who got trapped in the door and did not have a gas mask and died?
Me.
Me.
I did not.
Yeah, Isaac, did
Dang.
you die in the
Quite a bit.
Ugh. Yeah. So then after that, we get through and we are on our second boss. But not
Hey.
before we get a call from a mysterious person. What you got?
Real quick, before you get into your second boss, I just want to say, all right, so you meet Meryl and she runs off. Now, the conversation that you have with her is really, I don't know, it's kind of long and it's drawn out, but not in a bad way. One of the first things that she's like, "Oh, you're Snake, you're the Snake. I've heard so much about you." And he immediately says, like, "Oh, if you meet me in real life, you're going to be really disappointed." And like, so they continue to talk. And then at the end of the conversation, he's just like, "So was I right? Are you really disappointed?" And she's like, "Ha ha ha. Yeah, I'm really disappointed." And like the self-deprecation that Snake had in that conversation was just like, I don't know. That's whenever I really started enjoying the codec, and I started like understanding that that's kind of where I don't know where like the strengths for this game lie in. But yeah.
No, for sure. I would definitely say that Snake, with certain people, and it's interesting because, like, as a main character for a game series, everyone's always like, and that's what they got wrong with Twin Snakes. Everyone's always like, man, Snake's such a badass if they've never played the games. And in Twin Snakes, he's like a supernaturally fucking strong badass.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that he's not. Like, in the main games of the series, and this is kind of like a theme that's going to be in all the games, Snake's just really good at surviving. Like, he's just like a normal dude who's good at staying alive.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely talk about it towards the end of the game when there's kind of like the big reveal. But yeah,
And
Snake's not super special.
yeah, and side note, playing the first Metal Gear is like you start out and this is your first rookie mission. So like I saw Snake as like an incompetent person from the get-go because this is the first game that I played before Metal Gear Solid. So that was interesting.
No, totally. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting the way that they kind of do that. But yeah, Snake with certain characters, like with the Colonel and everybody else, they're like, man, he's a badass. But with other people who he meets for the first time, he's always just like, I'm kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah, and they're all like
And it's
really
like, oh,
disappointed that when they meet him. They're like, oh, you were this legend. And you're just kind of this guy that's like really perverted.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, we go out into the snow and we get a phone call from a mystery caller. I do believe he goes by Mr. X at first and then says, actually call me Deep Throat.
Yeah.
Which is an allusion to the Watergate scandal. Which is weird because I feel like most of the people that were the right age to play Metal Gear Solid were not necessarily really observant of politics in the early 90s. So it's kind of a weird political kind of allusion to throw in there. However, Deep Throat being an informant, I guess it kind of fits. And he says, watch out, dog, there's mines. And so did you guys go get the mine detector? Anybody?
Yeah, I did.
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I totally didn't.
I
Eh.
I had that, and I don't remember him calling himself Mr. X, but he does make that reference.
You're bleeding into 2, Alessio.
Oh, okay.
Because slight spoiler for you guys, there is a mystery character in 2 as well. And he introduces himself as Deep Throat.
Oh, and then says,
find Mr. X then. So.
Okay.
Oops. Okay, so anyway, but you guys did or did not get the mine detector?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember the first time I was playing through, I was like, fuck, man, I don't want to backtrack because I don't know where that's at, even though I think it's in the armory. And I just got blown up at one point. I was still laying flat. And for some reason, I was like, I'm going to try crawling through this shit and taking it easy. And I realized that when you crawl, you pick them up. So I just never got the mine detector the first time I played, and I just crawled through and picked up the mines. But yeah, so then we enter our second boss fight, which is the tank. How did you guys handle this boss fight?
Oh my god. Aiming... Because you're supposed to throw the grenades into the cockpit, right?
Yeah.
Aiming... Oh my god. Don't even... I have no words for how difficult trying to get those grenades in there it was for me.
It's interesting because it does do an auto lock as well, kind of like the guns, but it's like very finicky.
Yeah, and the tank's constantly moving, so it's a lot harder too. It's just kind of it's like it was just very difficult. Even with the lock, it was just very difficult for me to figure out. Plus, when I first played, it took me forever to figure out that I needed to throw grenades into the tank in the first place.
Yeah. How'd you guys do with your first time, Cameron and Isaac? Cameron?
For me, it was not very difficult. I definitely died a couple times until I realized that chaff grenades turned it off. And I guess this is the point where I realized that chaff grenades are really the most OP item in the entire game, and you use them for the remainder of the game.
Oh, what do the chaff grenades do?
Jam radar.
Yeah, it jams the
no,
radar.
to the tank.
Yeah, it jams it to where he's not firing off the giant missiles that like auto hit you. Like so once you crawl past where the mines are, I don't know. There's kind of those like rocks, but once you get past a certain point, it immediately hits you and you die. But if you throw out a chaff grenade, it throws that off, and then they're only on like a gun, I guess. And it made it really easy to walk up. And my thing is, I immediately thought that I had to like plant grenades on, and I guess this comes from like thinking from futuristic games. So I went up to like plant a grenade on it, and I realized that it didn't trigger any sort of like extra thing. So I guess I just like put on grenades and threw it, and it immediately went in. And then that boss fight was like so easy from that point to where I realized that I just had to be really, really close, and then it like automatically went in.
Gotcha. Isaac, how was it for you?
I kind of had similar experiences with it, same as Cameron, but backing up with before you get to the boss with the mine field, whatever. I could not wade. I don't know why, but I could not get through there without getting blown up at least once or twice.
Well, there was no mines on the side parts. It was
Like
only
the left side?
at the left side or the right side. There's no mines.
Was there not?
So like I would throw on the mine detector. I saw that they were just in the middle, and then I never equipped the mine detector.
Oh, I'm thinking about when you have to backtrack. And then there are just mines everywhere.
They line the whole fucking place.
And I couldn't get through that. Anyway, so I guess I could get through. I don't know. I can't remember. It was.
Yeah, and we may kind of just like, I don't know. We may not necessarily like speed shit up and skip over stuff, but we may kind of like tackle it in sections. Moving forward, just because there's a lot of backtracking, snaking shit coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Anyway,
Board.
The boss, tank, it wasn't that hard because I figured out the chaff grenade like Cameron did, and then once I figured that out, I actually didn't have a problem with aiming the grenade into the cockpit or whatever you call that thing. I did at first try to plant like C4 on the tank, and I thought that would work, but it didn't do anything. So.
That's what's up. Yeah, what did you guys think of Mr. Vulcan Raven, who kind of reveals himself as being the tank driver as you leave?
Coolest guy.
Vulcan Raven's my spirit
hilarious.
animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, I totally agree with Sam. Like, Vulcan Raven, coolest fucking dude out of the entire series. Thus
So you guys
far.
are Team Vulcan Raven?
Yeah, for sure.
Vulcan.
Isaac, what do you think of Mr. Raven?
I thought he was a cool dude.
As the Sioux people know, snakes have no arms.
That's what it was. I was trying to remember
The
what he
raven
said.
on my head thirsts for your blood.
He says the most bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that guy.
Yeah, this was the first point in the game where it kind of became like metaphysical, if that's the right word.
Hell yeah.
Where
It's like a little supernatural.
yeah, and like I don't know, he says that shit about the snake and how like ravens pick on snakes, and I was like, oh, that's funny. And then like I don't know, it just kind of got really intense for me, and I didn't know that Metal Gear was that kind of game up until that point. When when the raven comes out of his head and you hear like in the distance, and it's like so low, it's like in the background, I laughed, and I was like, oh, I love this. I don't know.
Yeah, this series gets real fucking, I don't know, it's weird. The series it does this cool realism plus fuck it, throw everything to the wall, like kind of back and forth dance.
Yeah, for sure. And that was the first instance that I experienced of that, so it was great.
Sweet. All right, so we're moving into the nuclear building.
And you can't shoot guns.
Hell yeah, dude. That was crazy for me. I was like, I don't know how to sneak through here. I can't use anything. Because I will say the first time I played through this game, as soon as I got the suppressor on the SOCOM, I did not leave a single human being alive. Like, I didn't alert anybody. Like, I would go to first person view and I'd be like, there's a guy off my radar, but he's like straight ahead. And I would just be like, and then I would hear him hit the ground and I was like, good. And I literally just like murdered everybody. Which is not the way that you're supposed to play based on how it scores you, because I got a horrible score at the end of the game. But still. How about you guys when you got to the warhead room? Or the nuclear building? Did it fuck with you guys at all, or were you just like whatever?
Originally I was like whatever, because I was already at the point where I was doing my best to sneak anyway, so it kind of didn't faze me when I first started playing it.
This is it.
I was the same way. I mean, at that point I was I don't think I figured out the gun very well at that point, so or how to shoot. So I was like, I'm just gonna walk around a little bit, and it seemed to work all right, I guess.
Nice. Cameron, what was your experience like?
Pretty much the same. I guess at this point, like I was under the impression that this was much more of a stealth game than it actually is. And wait, what was that, Sam? Was that
I didn't say.
I thought I heard a little chuckle.
Whoa.
No.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. Like, same thing with Isaac. Like, I wasn't really using the gun too much, so I guess I kind of become adapted to. I don't know. Like, it didn't faze me because I was just sneaking through anyway.
Gotcha. I will say, so pro tip, and I think we briefly mentioned it, that you picked up the cardboard box in the tank room earlier.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a good tool to use at this sort of point in the game because it's kind of the only item you can really equip.
Also, hopping in the truck with the box will take you back and forth to.
Yeah, and depending on which box it is, you can get the truck to take you to different places.
Yeah.
Which super rad.
Which in the end is one of the only reasons why I did not stop playing this game.
All right, interesting. Will we get to that later, or do you want to explain that now?
We get to that later in a certain point of the game where you have to backtrack significantly, and it really takes you out of the mindset of whatever it is that you're involved with. And I was like, wow, this is absolute bullshit. And I started to walk back, and only then did I make the connection, like, oh, maybe I can fast travel with this. And I did. And if that had not worked, I would have stopped playing the game.
Word. Speaking of backtracking, we get to the basement level of the nuclear building. We get to basement 2. And we discover that the floor is electrified and the room is full of gas. Which leads to, again, as Cameron's been kind of hinting at throughout this whole playthrough, another sort of like copy-pasted moment from Metal Gear 1. And it's just like, oh shit, you may or may not have your gas mask at this point. Hopefully you do. And you, at this point, absolutely have to double back to the armory. So we're going to fast forward real quick so that we don't fucking talk about everything. And you find the Nikita launcher at the armory, and then you come all the way back. What was you guys' experience trying to get through this floor, I guess?
Isaac?
For me, it was like using the Nikita.
Yeah, like, I don't know, did it all click? Or?
It was... I don't know. I couldn't get over the controls because of the whole speeding up and of the missile or whatever. And then I didn't realize you could go into first-person mode or whatever. And so... can't you go into first-person mode on the Nikita?
From the missile?
I thought you could.
I think you can with a Stinger. I don't know if you can with a Nikita. Maybe you can.
I thought I did that to... Anyway, that's down the road, but... so yeah, it was a little difficult. I had died quite a few times, or not died, but I had to reload up on those Nikitas.
What about you, Cameron?
For me, I didn't know that you could go first person with those missiles. It's kind of the first time hearing about it, but I did have I did have the Nikita and I did have the gas mask. I didn't know that you had to backtrack for those. So I guess I'd already found those at that point. But to me, the Nikita would kind of like almost go completely out of frame if you let it speed up to a certain point. So it was kind of aggravating. It's one of those things to where like, okay, so like with Dark Souls, games like that are like modern, I guess I feel like when you die, you know that it's your fault. But a thing that I experienced with this game and older games in general is like whenever I died, it was like I was trying to figure out how the game actually works. So if I launched a missile and I could barely see it, it was off screen and it would like hit a wall. I was like, okay, well next time I have to know that that wall is coming.
Well, that's kind of, I mean, I would say that is how Dark Souls is, because Dark Souls and like Castlevania games and all those older games, it's trial and error. So like, you kind of learn from your mistakes.
To a certain extent, but with things like that, it's like maybe I should know to check around the corner. So whenever I do die, it feels like it's my fault and I wasn't cautious enough. To where with certain aspects of Metal Gear, it's like I couldn't have known that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, like memorization.
Yeah, just things like that with trial and error. And so eventually I figured it out, and it was like launch the missile, and if you like wiggle it around, it'll slow down. So I was just constantly like wiggling this missile, kind of moving it in like an S format. But yeah, it was pretty cool. And going back to what we mentioned in the very first episode, like the surprise sound, this was the absolute like coolest part to me in Metal Gear. Is like I walk out of the elevator and it goes like, and it, you know, it shifts over and I see the doctor and I'm like, oh ho ho. But yeah, that was really cool to me.
What's up, Sam? What you got? Anything different?
Not really. The trouble with me was that I also had no idea that you could you can go into first person with the missile. So it would took me. I to this day I cannot do that without being in first person.
Word. For me, definitely echo everything that you guys said, but for me, I had to waste bullets taking out turrets because the turrets would shoot my missiles while they were trying to get to the box.
I didn't know that you could use missiles to take them out.
Yeah, so like I would just waste a couple missiles and just like blow them up and try and get like two at once and stuff. But yeah, so we get through that shit. The gas is still going, and then you go through this little like escape hatch, and there's items littered throughout. So if you want, you can go back and get them. I don't think the gas ever goes away in this room. I think it's just like a permanent leak.
Yeah, it's permanent.
But once you get to this little like airlock room, and this is actually a funny story. So the before I got the disc buffed, I had gotten a used copy of it, and every single time I got to this airlock, it would like flip a coin, it would hold and just crash and be locked permanently. And so for the longest time, like, and still to this day, when I get to this airlock, I like hold my breath and I'm like, please don't crash, please don't crash. But then we see one of the coolest fucking cutscenes in like Metal Gear history, which is the ninja hallway. How did you guys feel about? Let's just go ahead and like lump up this hallway and the boss fight all in like one big sort of event. Sam, how did you feel about this guy whenever you kind of encountered this series of things?
This was the first time, like, I guess because we did kind of forget to mention a little bit earlier that Psycho Mantis shows up for the first time.
Oh, that's right.
After you fight that group of guys.
Yeah.
And that was really weird. But this was the first time that it really clicked with me with the ninja. Was like, this game's fucking weird, and I love it. So that's kind of the experience with it was and it's kind of like I did wind up with the tank. I wound up figuring the chaff grenade. So what? Kind of like Cameron and Isaac, like the chaff grenade is my OP weapon of choice at this point in my life. So it's always the first thing I try. And at this point, I was like, I'm going to throw this just in case. And he started freaking out when you threw it. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. So this is my catch-all weapon, I guess. So that one was actually...
I didn't realize that he was affected by that.
Oh, yeah, no, he kind of like... Yeah, for sure. For sure he
I
is.
just punched that dude in the face.
That's like your go-to, isn't it?
Yeah, dude. I know it worked. It worked with the ninja.
It's well, because where the tank and Ocelot was kind of a challenge for me, where Cameron and Isaac said that they didn't really have too much trouble with him. This was the first, like, I guess you'd call him a boss, where it wasn't hard for me to figure out. So
Sweet. What about you, Cameron?
To me, this is where I had my very first issue with the game in general, to where it was like, wow, that was a massive oversight, which is you enter the hallway in which he has just fucked everything up, and right before and during, the signal is jammed, which is a universal signal for you just threw a chaff grenade. And then, so whenever I got into this boss fight, I was like, okay, chaff grenades don't work on this guy because the signal was just jammed. And I had an issue with him, and I died, and I threw a chaff grenade, and I was like, wait a second, that shouldn't have just worked, because whenever you throw a chaff grenade, he freaks out, and like he's grasping his head, and I was like, well, why is he not doing that with the signal jammed? And it's such a minute thing, and I know that it's kind of asshole to like focus on something like that, but to me that was the first issue that I had. But with the actual boss fight, I think this is where I first started to figure out patterns with boss fights, and like how boss fights in general would end up going, to where it's like, okay, let me figure out the pattern, get them to a certain percentage of health, they'll change and it'll get a little bit more frantic, repeat that process a little bit more. I didn't have too much problems with this boss, especially after I figured out that chaff grenades worked against this guy. You would just kind of throw it, he would freak out, and like you, I would just punch him in the face. Yeah,
I don't think you can shoot him. I will jump in real quick, Isaac, before we go to you, and I will say that there are a couple different points in the game where they mentioned that like the architecture of the building and like going underground and like being within certain like thickness of walls and stuff like that jam the radar signal. And so I would argue that hallway is jammed because it's like a protective hallway to keep Otacon from being able to communicate with people. And I think that the reason why the chaff grenades fuck with the ninja is because he's got way more electronic shit going on than just radar, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like I figured out why it worked against the ninja, but I didn't figure out why prior to me throwing the chaff grenade it was disabling my radar. But no, I mean what you say makes valid sense, and I didn't think about that.
No, for sure. But it doesn't fucking make sense later in the game that you're throwing chaff grenades to do something to Metal Gear and he's able to function. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Isaac, what do you think of the ninja?
I thought he was pretty crazy.
Hurt me more.
I know. I was like, okay, if you want.
Yeah, there's some definite homoerotic things going on. And once again, like, shout out to Watch Out for Fireballs. If you listen to that, like, they make references all the time to, like, the homoerotic things in this game. But,
Yeah.
It's like Top Gun, baby.
But I don't know. At first I couldn't figure it out. I was, like, shooting at him, and I know he was saying, what does he say? Bullets can't hurt me, or whatever.
Oh, yeah, and he's like, blood, sinew.
Yeah. But I was looking at his health, and every time I shot him, a sliver of health came off. I was like, oh, I guess this is going to just take forever. I just kept shooting at him.
So Isaac just grinded it out.
But, I mean, it wasn't going to work. So then I had to try a different route, and that's when I used the chaff.
Man, I need to just remember, like, when in doubt, chaff that shit.
Yeah, man, how have you got
when in doubt, chaff it out.
How have you got through this game without the chaff?
Yeah, I don't know. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's something that Isaac said with just like chipping away at his health and being like, God damn, this is going to be a long fight. That's something I kind of fell into with the remainder of the boss fights. to where it's like, okay, I figured out how you work. I feel like I've got the formula, but it's taking way too long to get rid of you.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah.
Well, we will be seeing that shortly, and we will talk about that soon.
So this is where we meet Otacon wetting himself.
Oh yeah, little pee-pee boy.
Your uniform is different from theirs. You're the Metal Gear Chief Engineer, Hal Emmerich, right? You know me?
A little bit of pee-pee play.
Ooh.
And we also get to see a bunch of cutscenes from Police Knots as mech cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the idea of a dude who got into robotics specifically because it reminds him of his Japanese animes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know,
Like-
there's something about that I adore.
I relate to Otacon. He is my spirit animal, much like Vulcan Ranger.
and for different reasons.
They're very similar.
Simultaneously, both.
Simultaneous spirit animals.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also if you look carefully in the room, there is a Sony PlayStation with a controller in the corner, which is replaced with a GameCube and a Yoshi statue in the Twin Snakes.
Oh, that's cool.
And there's a Police Knots poster, and I think that's about it. But yeah, so we discover Otacon. He is the scientist who they've been imprisoned who's been working on Metal Gear, and the terrorists are holding him hostage to use him to detonate the nukes. And Snake's like, "Why are you pissing yourself, boy?" And Otacon's like, "I'm sorry, Dad," and they become friends. And our next mission quest becomes, gotta find that booty.
Sweetie Swooty.
Hey,
Coming for that booty.
guys, I'm really sorry. I feel like I might be talking a little bit too much, but I do have some things to say about Otacon.
Dude, drop it down. Let's hear it.
All right. One of the things previously when we talked about this with Snake repeating things, when you first meet Otacon, you say, "I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in your mind. Tell me about Metal Gear." And he says, "Huh? Metal Gear?" Like he's never heard of the fucking thing before. And I think this is where it kind of clicked for me that certain key elements in the story, they repeat them, which I think is a little ridiculous. In certain aspects, I feel like they. I should have formed my thoughts prior to this discussion. But
No, you're fine.
okay. Problem with this game series is, I feel like in certain areas they assume the worst possible scenario for, possibly just Americans in the remake of like not being able to grasp certain things and like having to have things repeated to them. But in the case of like saying, Metal Gear? What? Fox die? Foxhound? And just like repetition over repetition. But then certain aspects of the game that were like really difficult to grasp, they didn't really touch on them too terribly much. Which comes into play with like Sniper Wolf and just being like, "Oh, we need a fucking sniper rifle. Good luck." And not realizing that I have to backtrack to literally the first 30 minutes of the game was a little frustrating. But that was one of my things with Otacon, and I forgot the second one.
I think technically with the Metal Gear thing, he's surprised that you know about it because no one's supposed to know about it. So like I didn't read it as like Metal Gear, what the fuck is Metal Gear? I had read it as like a Metal Gear.
How do you know?
How do you know
Gear?
about Metal Gear?
Yeah, I can see that, but I do notice that he does it later on in the conversation, and Colonel Sanders will do it later in.
What did you just say? What the fuck did you
Edit
just
that
say?
out, please.
No.
Please.
No. That is committed
Yes.
committed to tape.
But
Oh my God.
like just in general, later down the road,
Colonel Campbell suit.
multiple characters repeat themselves, and it's all
Yeah.
story-driven key plots, I guess.
It's a Japanese thing. They do that shit in like 999 and
Really?
Phoenix Wright
Nande?
and all kinds of shit. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah,
I
it's
just feel
cool.
like it's a very like Japanese thing to do, where they're like, this thing that we don't think you'll grasp. Let's say it 100 times.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm not making excuses for Kojima-san. I'm just saying.
Kojima
Isaac, how did you
senpai,
feel about
gomenasai.
Otacon
Anyway.
In what
but-
regard?
as a character?
Oh, in that regard.
His body. Tell me about his physique. What did you think?
I want to know about his
cute.
body.
Cameron? Oh no, it's
Otacon is so
Isaac
kawaii.
who thought that Solid Snake was cute.
Well, I mean, his movement, he was just like, I'm going to swim a little bit. And then, I'm talking about Snake, not Otacon, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I
Otacon's such a
liked
cutie.
Otacon. He seemed to know his stuff, so
Yeah.
I had no argument with him.
Hey,
Isaac was like, I have nothing to correct about this man.
I mean, aside from the peeing and whatever that he did, I mean, I can't
Peeing?
blame him, but
wait, what peeing?
didn't he wet
Otacon
himself?
pees
He peed
himself.
himself.
Oh, I guess he does. Yeah.
Yeah, he literally wet his britches like a little doo-doo baby.
in the closet, like a little duty baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a little
My-
doo-doo baby.
My other thing that I wanted to ask about Otacon, Isaac, I'm especially interested to hear if you thought this.
Okay.
Right before Otacon leaves, after you meet him, he is like, "Hey, if you ever need any rations or ammunition, hit me up."
Oh yeah.
And then, like, anytime that I'm low, which is mainly towards the end of the game, I try and call him, and he like wants to talk about some totally unrelated shit. And I'm like, no, I want to like ask you for rations. Like, I don't know. Did you get that idea?
I never asked him about it. I just thought it was like a common courtesy. Just, if you want some rations, call me.
If you wait long enough in an area after you call him, he will show up with a stealth camo,
Really?
and he'll drop it off. Yeah.
Wow.
How
It's
long?
just you have to wait for him to like, I don't know, like it's like a quote unquote like what you think it would kind of take depending on where he's at. It's not like a crazy long time, but if you just like hang out, like you'll just see like a little like predator silhouette kind of like come up to you, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So it's
which
more of like a
leads-
fail safe.
Yeah, dude, it's interesting. Which leads me to, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about what you did after Sniper Wolf. So let's push real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So we're following that booty, that poolside booty, if you know what
That's
I'm talking about,
sweetie,
Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to figure out where the hell Meryl went to. And this is kind of a weird scene where, and I don't know how long it took you guys to find her, but it took me a little bit the first time I played. But you have to like go and hang out in a zone and look for the guard that like walks like an over exaggerated woman walk.
Yeah.
And when you see that guard with that big white girl booty swishing those hips, you have to make
This
yourself
is making me
apparent.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, you have to make yourself apparent to her. And she goes, and then she runs away. And I don't know if you guys discovered this or not. If you run fast enough, you can catch up
Catch
to
her
her.
in her underbritches.
Yeah.
Girl, them polygon.
what?
Yeah, if you run after Meryl and follow her to the bathroom quick enough, she will not have enough time to get changed.
Yep.
Oh.
So she'll be in her underwear.
Wow.
Yeah. And as a, like, I don't know how old I was. What was it, 1998? As like a 11-year-old? No,
Wow.
not a 10-year-old. As a
9-year-old.
9-year-old. As a 9-year-old. I'm bad at math.
Damn, you're old.
As a 9-year-old boy, I was just like, this makes me feel interesting.
Once again,
but yeah.
as
This
a
makes me feel some sort of
24-year-old,
way.
I felt a certain way.
Yeah. But then she does this really weird shit where she goes, hey, Snake, I've got the key card that you need. And he's like, where did you hide that? And she's like, oh, women have places. And I was like, I don't know where she means.
This
Oh.
this is the second part of the game where I had to save because I had to take a break, and I had to go to my computer and I had to take care of something because she was talking about that hiding place. That came out.
Sorry.
They came out wrongly. That totally wasn't.
Did you find it, Cameron?
It was totally unrelated.
Cameron found himself in the hiding place. But yeah, and so then we venture off to fight the Psycho Mantis. And for those of you playing at home who've never played the game before, Psycho Mantis is a psychic who can read your mind, and when you're trying to fight him, he knows exactly what you're going to do before you're going to do it, and you can't fucking damage him. So it's a little bit of a, what do I do? So yeah,
So it gets super meta.
Yeah, like Cameron? I guess it was spoiled for you. So I'm interested. Isaac, was it spoiled for you? What to do?
Bilbo told me.
Ah, Bilbo boy, unofficial sponsor of the Metal Gear podcast.
He just couldn't keep his mouth shut, and he just
That son of a bitch.
all the way
He was
from
spamming the Bilbo whistle.
Hobbiton.
I'm Hobbiton, Hoboken, New Jersey. I'm gonna link to this kid's like game FAQ account and just make him like the unofficial sponsor.
I wonder if he's
All right.
done anything else.
With me, I was getting frustrated with the idea of what to do. So I guess the colonel tells you eventually if you call him enough times. And what my thing when I got stuck in this game was, I would just sit on the codec and call people. And I wouldn't necessarily do it because I figured they'd give me information. I just do it because I felt like I needed to do something. And I just called this colonel a bunch of times, and he eventually told me, he was like, well, try plugging your controller into port 2. And like, I was like, okay. So I did that.
That's awfully forward of you, Colonel. Like, what if he was just like, take off your fucking pants, Sam?
Put your penis in the PS1. But like the cool thing, because
Smash
Cameron
it
and Isaac,
into
how
the
did you guys
disc.
play it? How did you guys play the game?
Oh, for me it was on the PS3.
Yeah, I was playing it on the PS3 as well.
You have to
I think that
you have to go into the menu
think-
and
change the
yeah,
controller
tell it to
section.
change it to
Yeah.
2.
Well, this one has nothing to do with the controllers because I knew about that. This one is and I think he does do it for the PS3 too for certain games. But if you have like Konami
the memory
games
card.
on your memory card, he'll talk about. So you like to play Castlevania?
Yeah.
And like, it's the weirdest shit. But like, he'll do it with certain PS3 games too. I think.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Mine was pretty barren, my thing, and I eventually looked it up, and he'll only talk about Konami related games because they couldn't get the license from other games, like trying to release it. But so I didn't have anything Konami related. Like I've strictly used my PS Store for like old classics, like Final Fantasy games and things like that. So he was just like, "Wow, you're a blank slate. Like you must really enjoy Metal Gear for this to be the only game that you're playing." And yeah, that's kind of interesting. But
Cameron said, I don't even like this fucking game.
that's not what I said.
Nah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But he was also just like, "Wow, you never, you're very risky. You never save your game." And because up until this point, I had only saved the game once. I saved it before Donald Anderson, or right after, and then I saved it right after, right before Rex, because I played it in like two stretches of time. Yeah.
I was a save fiend, and whenever I got to him, he was like, "You're a very paranoid man." And he was like, "You're cautious," and like I don't know. And I had a bunch of games on my memory card. I think you said something about DDR, which cracked me up because I had a DDR save on my memory card. Isaac, did he say anything weird for you?
I'm trying to remember. No, I was just the regular save guy. Just kind of,
Gotcha.
He was like,
What's like that in between one where like if you don't save a whole bunch, but you also don't ever like you do save sometimes?
I can't remember. I think he says
'Cause-
something kind of moderate.
I think he says something along the lines of what Cameron got, but not all the way, I guess.
Yeah, not like as
Yeah.
over the top. Fun fact, in the Twin Snakes version of this game, instead of like pictures that you can't tell what the fuck they are on the walls, it's actually Konami employees pictures dressed up like in suits, and they start laughing at you, and one of them is Hideo Kojima, and his face just cracks me up when he does the laughing because it's like a shitty like Tom Goes to the Mayor kind of like animation. But yeah, it's really good. So you Meryl gets mind controlled. She asks you to bang her, and Snake says no for some reason, and then you have to not kill her, and so you can use a stun grenade or you can punch her in the face. Can you guys guess what I did?
What did you do?
I punched her in the face. 'Cause
Oh,
I punched
yeah.
everybody in this game. But yeah, and so then like the proper battle starts, and if you are in controller port 2, he can't sense your movements, and you can just lay into him like any other boss fight. But yeah, and then you get this really fucking sad story about how his entire village was burned to the ground, and he could like hear all of their voices and shit. Or he burned the village to the ground, but he was like haunted by their voices for the rest of his life, and like was always just like, I don't know, just really sad story. He opens the little hatch for you because he tells Snake that you're just like me, and like you have no past and no future, you're just in it for the killing. And he can smell the blood on Snake's hands, and Snake's like, dog, I don't enjoy this shit, I just do it to survive. And then we go into this little back area and play with the wolves.
Yep. Into the caves.
So what'd you guys think about the little cave section?
I got lost.
Yeah, I
couldn't figure out
got
what to do.
lost.
Cameron, what you got?
I'm still caught up on Psycho Mantis. I don't know.
Oh, what you got? You need something for Psycho Boy?
No, I mean, I think this is like a really big turning point for me in the game, to where I don't know. I had some problems with the mechanics, but once I kind of got that cutscene from Psycho Mantis, I was like, oh man, like that was really intense. That was really emotional. That was really awesome to see. And I've never played a game ever up until this point to where it was like, you know, you kind of connect with a boss or like some sort of enemy. I don't know. I thought that was really cool, and I think it was like one of the things that kept me going throughout the game. But yeah.
No, definitely. I feel like Metal Gear does, at least Metal Gear Solid 1, and I would say maybe the second one does it as well. They do the whole like Assassin's Creed, you just killed a boss and he's going to monologue to you until he dies kind of thing, but they do it really well to where it doesn't, I don't know, like I never thought in my mind, like, why isn't he dead yet? Why is he still fucking talking?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, for sure. Like I really enjoy all the monologues that you get out of the bosses in the game.
I'm jumping ahead again, but Fat Man in 2 is really good as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a really long one, but it's really good. No, totally, and I'm glad that you stopped us and pulled us back into that, Cameron, because I don't know, kind of for folks to know a little behind the scenes, we've been recording for a little while, so I was just kind of like cranking to the next thing, but I really appreciate bringing that back up because I think that's super important. But yeah, definitely one of the most memorable boss fights in a video game, like, period.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. But yeah, so then we end up in these caves, kind of difficult, confusing caves. There's some wolves. Fun fact, if you wear the box and you stand near the dogs or the wolves, they will piss on you, and from that point forward, you can wear the box and they will not attack you at all, and you can just run straight through them.
I think it's
Yeah,
only
after
the
it
little
pees on
kid.
you don't have to wear the box.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Isn't it only the
The baby
the
wolf.
little wolf?
Yeah. The slow wolf, if you will.
Oh yeah, I didn't know about that at all.
Yeah.
And
Or you just punch the wolves to death like I did.
I don't know. This is like a big problem that I have in video games.
Why?
It's like,
What is your thing with punching people to death?
Yeah,
I didn't want to waste bullets. I wanted to save it for bosses, who I then punched anyway.
Exactly.
Cameron, what you got? Spit that game.
just random side note. Like, I guess maybe because I own dogs in real life. I don't know. Killing dogs is such a weird thing in video games. Like, I feel worse killing dogs than I do like shooting humans. So it's always a little strange. And like whenever I got to that point, it was weird to like kill them, but like they take way more bullets than they should. Like,
I was wondering what you were leading into, and you were not leading into like it broke my heart, and I cried. And it's like these motherfuckers took 45 bullets.
yeah, it's like
And I just kept killing.
you would shoot them, and you'd be like, "Oh God, thank God that's over," and then like they would get back up, and that would repeat like 2 or 3 times, to where eventually I was just like, "I'm just gonna fucking run, and I'm gonna get bit, and I don't even care." But
I think I read a thing at one point that said like the developers didn't want to make them immortal, but they also didn't want to like incentivize people murdering animals. So they tried to find like an in-between where they were like, we'll just make it too hard to kill so that way people won't just kill them.
whenever I
I
was
don't know.
10, it was really hard to kill dogs in video games, so I didn't ever want to try and kill dogs in the future. Like,
But yeah, and mysteriously Meryl just happens to be at the other end waiting for you. Somehow she
you
just
talked
ran
to her.
through it.
You talked to her before, and she runs ahead.
Yeah, but then she just like completely like teleports ahead.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You have like, and I didn't understand the point of this. I thought it was going to come into effect later in the game, but like you have a little peephole to the end of the maze or whatever, and it's just like Meryl standing there, and I always thought that was weird. But,
yeah, I guess it's kind of like the way that they did with the DARPA chief and with Otacon. They're just sort of like, here's what you're trying to get to.
yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah. So you get to her, you guys go in, and then she does this crazy thing where she's like, "No, Snake, it's a minefield. I got this, dog. Just follow my footprints." Did you guys do it the way she asked you to, or did you guys?
No, I crawled across and collected them.
I didn't know about the crawling, and
I didn't either.
this was, I know I mentioned it before, but this was like one of the first moments where I really considered quitting the game because of how ridiculous it was for her to say, whenever I was in Psycho Mantis's mind, I saw where the mines were. And to me, that was such a fucking like cop-out to say, I don't even want to think about this. Let's just have it be this way because it's the easiest way to write this part of the game. And that to me was just like really frustrating. I don't know. You could have thought of a million ways to write this. Just like, I was like fucking top of my class in mine detecting in my school that I've mentioned that I went to or
In
whatever.
my cool Japanese high school.
Yeah. Well, like
With robots.
That would almost be
damn it.
better.
Well, she talks
No,
about
I know.
the academy that she went to. And I don't know. I feel like with 5 minutes of having a fucking conversation with your writing staff, you could have thought of a better way than the Psycho Mantis. Like, the one thing that I saw in his mind was the minefields. And to me, please keep this out. This was really frustrating. To where it's like, the one person in this fucking base who wouldn't need to know about the minefields is the guy that can float above the fucking mine so he doesn't pay any attention to the goddamn mines. And like,
Absolutely.
that was just like,
Why do you want me to cut that out? That's like fine. Like that's perfectly fine.
I feel like it's too like side related, but that just frustrated me.
We're talking about the mines.
Yeah, it just frustrated me so much. And then, so like, she gives this shit explanation for like follow me through the mines. Like, here, let's have a little 30-second mini game before boss fight. And then I do it, and you'll find out later in the actual boss fight that regardless of whether or not you climb over the mines or not, they are gone the next time that you are there.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if they cleared the mines when they were trying to go get Meryl's body.
They don't go that far.
Oh, that's true. They go
Which,
from the other side.
another thing, I think why they had that whole go back and get the sniper rifle is because they couldn't think of an adequate way to remove Meryl's body without changing the story.
Potentially. Though I will say, even if they made you, I mean, they totally could have done it in like a Kodak call, if you think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so we're skipping ahead a little bit. But I will say, so Meryl's got 2 different lines of dialogue depending on if you get blown up trying to do it, or if you cheat, or if you do it correctly. So if you cheat or you get blown up, she'll say something like, "Oh, I guess it was too hard for you," or like, "I'm sorry, maybe I moved too quickly," or something. But if you do follow her footsteps, she's just like, "I wouldn't expect anything less from the legendary Solid Snake," and they're like, but yeah, and then so you're standing there, and it's kind of this like, I mean, if you ever switch to first person before you even go across the minefield, it's like, what the fuck is this ominous hallway to nothing? And so you're just like, let's stand in the middle of the most open fucking area in the game, and let's chit chat for a second.
Yeah.
And Meryl gets shot by a sniper who is named Sniper Wolf, and she's using her as bait to pull Snake out. And I believe it's around this time that we find out that Meryl is Colonel Campbell's niece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Colonel's just like, Snake, you've got to save her. Like, I'm so sorry that I did not tell you this before, but she's my niece, and blah, blah, blah. And Snake's just like, fuck, man, okay. And so you have to go all the way back to the goddamn armory.
Is what, when I was playing it before, this is what almost made me quit playing it.
Yes.
Having to backtrack to the armory to get the sniper rifle.
Yep.
Anytime I play again. Like if it's been a really long time, I'm like, oh cool, this is great. But anytime I'm like, I beat this game like a year ago, I'm thinking about playing it again. I get to this point and I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it.
Do not want.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous. What did you think, Isaac?
Yeah, I hated this part, so that's I actually think I went too far back the first time I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to go.
I don't think you can. I don't
Isaac's
think you can
at the
go
dock.
farther back.
Apparently not.
Isaac's at the dock from the beginning.
I thought I went all the way.
So-
For some reason, I thought I went all the way back to crap,
Oh
what is
god,
that
I just
place
traced it in my mind, and that is a really fucking long walk.
called? It is.
Yeah, if you don't know about the boxes, like that's end of game. That's like I'm no longer following this kind of shit.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
When I first played it, I didn't know about the boxes.
Ooh.
I had
And
no idea
I
until you
think-
guys mentioned
No,
it.
so I did it old fashioned. Walked my happy ass
God
all the way back to
damn.
the armory. And I almost didn't do it. I was super mad that I had to go all the way back there, and it was my dad who like he gave me a fucking don't give up now pep talk, like you're playing football and it's the final minute of the fourth quarter and you can do it. Pep
That's
talk
amazing.
about Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I pushed through it and kept on playing.
Can I
Wow.
have your dad?
I want to meet
No,
that
I like
dad.
him.
I want to meet that real proud dad.
Real
Brad
bad
Dad.
I like my dad. I'd like to keep him if possible.
I think I'm gonna make a meme. I'm just gonna take a screenshot of like whenever you pick up the item boxes and it says the name of what it is.
Mhm.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna take a screenshot of Snake and it just says like and it's like PSG1 and then I'm just gonna put like collected sniper rifle and then at the bottom made dad real fucking proud.
But
yeah.
But yeah, so there's just this obnoxious walk back, and which for me at the time, I think I originally, whenever I was playing this game, I think at this part, I was at my grandparents' house and I brought my PlayStation. And so this was the point where I was like, time to crank up the radio and just fucking get through it, just hustle, because I was just like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Even at like 9 years old, I was like, God damn it.
Well, did you know about the box or did you not?
No, dude, honestly, I didn't know about the box until probably I played through the game a couple times, and then I had like a friend of mine showed me.
doesn't like the description of the boxes like hint to you that you can use it in that?
Yeah,
It says
yeah.
the
It clearly
location.
says like to this location.
Yeah, but I totally thought that was like, oh, that's where I collected it from. So I should use the box appropriate to the area in that area so that they don't think it's out of place.
Yeah, I could see that.
I thought it was
So-
like the inscription of what it said on the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I got from it. That's why.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, so
This-
anyway, you run your happy ass back. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I'm gonna say like even with the people who ran all the way back, like even with the boxes. So like this point in the game, if you use the boxes, it only took like 5 minutes to get back to where it was. But like my problem was not with the amount of time that you spent backtracking. My time with my major problem with this, and I feel like I've already said this before, but like a major point where I felt like I wanted to quit this game was not the amount of time that it took to backtrack, but the fact that they put me in such an intense moment and then immediately wanted to pull me out of it was really
And
discouraging.
throw you all the way back through everything you've already done.
Yeah, and like that problem comes up times 10 later in the game.
For sure. I
Uh,
think we all agree on that.
Yeah, so like that whole thing was really discouraging. And I was really upset that I tried to rationalize it as like they couldn't make the map as expansive as they wanted to, so they had to like reuse certain areas. And there's even a scene where like whenever you get the PSG one, where you call Otacon and you're like, why did you make me backtrack all the way over there? And he just says, I'm sorry, and then hangs up. I felt like maybe that was Hideo saying, I apologize for this. And
Oh.
maybe there's a reasoning behind that.
Tell you what, I think Otacon, this is me totally just fucking speculating. So later on in the game, it becomes apparent that Otacon is in love with Sniper Wolf.
Yes.
Do you think he sent Snake all the way fucking back in a ploy to like try to keep Snake from killing her?
It's probably a stretch.
I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's interesting that it's Otacon who's telling you where the PSG-1 is.
It is, but when you do call him, because I did have to call him, he is just like, he sounds really resigned in the fact that he's like, it's all the way back in the armory. That's where you have to go. And to me, like, that's the resignation. He's already agreed to it. So to call him afterwards and him be like, I'm sorry that it took you so long, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too. I don't know. It's interesting. I almost wonder. I mean, again, I think it's like a very heated moment, and she's like, fucking Meryl's like crying out, like, help me, help me.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if they would have, like, if they wanted you to leave the screen so that they could take her away, maybe the remedy, and this is me just like Monday morning quarterbacking, but like maybe the remedy would have been to like put the PSG-1 in the nuclear building, like in the fucked up electrified floor area, or maybe even in like somewhere near,
like in the caves at the very least.
or like not, and so much so that you had to find it to come back, so that they, because to me it like builds, like, yes, it takes you out of the moment, but at the same time it's like, I gotta get back, and so you're just like running, and you're like, man, I gotta save her, and I don't know what's gonna happen if I take too long, you know what I mean, like at the time in 1998 when you don't know what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can see why they did that a little bit, but, like, I think the distance is so goddamn far that you're like, dude, I just trekked for an hour.
Yeah, it really pulls you out of the moment that you're in. And I agree that they kind of did it as a way to get Meryl out of the scene. But I also feel like at this point, the codec was the strongest storytelling point in the game, to where it could have been Snake on the thing. I don't want to say it wrong. Colonel
Campbell.
Colonel Sanders.
Colonial Sanders.
He's, he questions like what's going on with Meryl, and just to even visibly see Snake get tense and be like, they're taking her, and then you cut back and she's gone, and there's a fucking PSG-1 in one of the mini barrels that is on scene,
like along the wall.
Yeah, like, I mean, I feel like storytelling,
or just give it to you before you get there.
Yeah, discover that shit before. Like, please don't take me out of one of the 3 most dramatic scenes in the game because you can't think of another way to do it, or you want to make the game longer, because it is a pretty short game, and I feel like maybe they were pressured by people to say, like, I need you to make this longer. Like, that's possibly the worst way to make that game longer.
Well, I think that was, I guess, going back to the technological limits of the day, because that's how a lot of older games worked, right? They had, because they couldn't fit a lot of stuff onto the disc or the cartridge, they had to reuse maps and whatnot. So that's one of the methods that they used to lengthen the game if they couldn't figure out how else to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I totally would like to see if there was like any sort of interview or any sort of like, I don't know, just anything with the development team to be like, why the fuck did you guys do this? Because like that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Real quick to answer the question about I wonder what Bilbo Boy has done. I just want you guys to know that he has done everything that pretty much Cameron. He did a cross section of our lives. So besides Metal Gear Solid, he did 2 games that will be very resonant to you, Cameron. He did Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and he did Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. I feel like this guy was writing guides around the time that me and Cameron met each other.
Yeah, that's literally like you coming to my house and saying like, "Hey, do you want to play Grand Theft Auto Vice City?" and me saying, "No, shut the fuck up. Do you want to play Two Towers?"
So, and this is where I reveal. Let me take off my sunglasses and whip my hair back and forth. I am Bilbo Boy. No, I'm kidding.
Oh no, that spoilers for next episode.
Yeah, for sure. So, post Sniper Wolf, you run back. Meryl's gone, and you have this fight with Sniper Wolf. I really quickly want to stop briefly, and after this little stop, we'll definitely jump straight into sort of the end of this episode. But Isaac, you told me that you had a lot of difficulty with Sniper Wolf. Did anybody else have difficulty with Sniper Wolf?
Yep.
Was it like the aiming fine-tuning that was difficult?
No, it wasn't the aiming that was a problem. For me, it was whenever you get shot, the like recoil that he experiences was probably the worst part for me.
Yeah, that's true. I know that if you unequip the rifle really quickly and re-equip it, like right as you get hit, that like you can avoid it.
Yeah, and I felt kind of cheated that like eventually I figured that out, but I was like, that shouldn't be a mechanic. Like,
yeah, that's also like pro tip to reloading.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah.
Unequipped and re-equipped.
Yeah. But yeah, Isaac, was it just the aiming that was a problem?
It was. I don't know. I'm really bad at fine-tune aiming and whatnot. It was that plus I couldn't get the timing right of her shots. So I was just, at that point I was beyond frustrated, and I was just shooting stuff at her. So
Unloading. I wish you could actually run up. Like, if you could, like, somehow time it, I wish you could just run up to her and just, like, punch her so that I could keep my punch game strong.
Or, like, they have, like, along the hallway, there's those little inlets that you can run and hide, I guess. I don't know what they're called. But I figured that would play a part in the boss battle. But
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. I definitely remember after defeating Sniper Wolf that I was super paranoid about what was over there. So I was, like, hiding in those inlets while trying to, like, head up there.
That's cool.
But, okay, and then at this point, we get to a pretty big moment in the game.
This is like crossroads.
Yeah, this is kind of like the midway point of the game, I would say. So you get captured, and you can't do anything about it, and they're like, we're going to fucking kill Meryl if you try and run away. And he's like, ugh. And so they take him in. Snake wakes up, he's on the table. It's, if you remember back to the DARPA chief, this is kind of like the flashback that you see is of, mysteriously, the DARPA chief on the same torture table, and you hear them say, fuck, we killed him. So you're like, wait a minute. And so Snake is on this torture table. We get kind of like the iconic, and it comes back 2 or 3 times in the series, like first-person view of the lighting fixture. And, like, your vision's all fucked up, and you just hear people talking about you. And Liquid is there, Ocelot is there. And I don't remember if anybody else is there. Is it just the 2 of them?
I think so.
And then Liquid...
Sniper's there.
Is she? Oh, that's right, because she's like, I marked him, he's mine, like, don't kill him, or whatever. And so she, like... they leave, and Liquid's just like, yeah, don't fucking kill him. And Ocelot's like, I won't, but I'll definitely get him to talk. And you discover that they want the detonation codes for the Metal Gear, because now with Otacon freed and the DARPA chief and the Arms Tech president dead, they don't have the necessary tools to detonate the nuke, which is crazy because that means that their entire fucking, like, bargaining chip is worthless. And Snake can't do anything about it because he's tied up. And so then we enter this torture sequence where Ocelot is telling you about his background, how he was known as... Fuck, what was he known as? His name...
Shalashashka?
Yeah, does he mention Shalashashka, or is it a different name?
Yeah, he mentions it.
I don't know.
Okay, and he talks about how he was in Afghanistan, and which we find out about kind of through as the series continues. And so he talks
I do want to throw this out there, though. I don't know if they have explained in the series, but they explain where Shalashashka comes from in 5.
No, I know. Yeah, and we literally see what he's talking about in 5. Spoiler alert.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, he kind of explains, like, the background of it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, you see it in and it's not really a spoiler because you see it in, like, every fucking trailer for MGS5 right now, but yeah, so, like, it does get alluded to, and, like, Ocelot is kind of a big part of the series, so...
Yeah, that's crazy. I thought he was a little bit more minor. But then I realized, like, I was killing every other boss that I came in contact with.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, but yeah, so he gets you on the table, and he's like, look, we're going to play this little game. you can submit and be a little bitch, and I'll let you go, or you can deal with my torture. And so, pro tip: if you submit at the end of the game, Snake rides into the sunset with Otacon, and if you do not submit, Snake rides into the sunset with Meryl. And
Which one is canon?
they're both canon
Okay.
because they both
That's
survive.
weird. Well, yeah, but that's just so weird. Because I feel like with the relationships that get built up over the course of the series, I feel like him escaping with Otacon would be more canon.
Well, and that's kind of what they
Anything.
make you believe to an extent, because you don't find out until like a couple games in that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, so it's kind of like the same thing that Deus Ex did after the second one. They're just like, fuck it, it's all canon. Like, we're just gonna find a way to make it all work. But yeah, so Cameron, I know you had trouble with this. Do you want to tell us about your story with this part of the game?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that it might be canon for Otacon to escape with you.
Yeah, they just both survive, is all I know. So
Yeah, like it was one of those things where it was like, maybe it would be different if I was playing it whenever I was younger and less accustomed to games. But to me, it was like, if I let her die, like I know I'm not going to get a 100% ending kind of deal. So, I mean, I definitely was like, I've got to save her. I've got to make sure that I win this shit. And like, I kept trying and I kept trying and I kept dying. And my wrist started to hurt. Like I'm notorious for having problems with one of my wrists for having a ganglion cyst in it. And like, I couldn't fucking do it. And I eventually like got really frustrated. I really thought about quitting this game because I was like, I'd rather not beat this game than get the non 100% ending. Eventually I figured out a way to do it. I'm doing it. And whenever I get to the, I guess, spoiler alert, like you do it once, you're in the cell, and then you have to do it again. On the second time that I was doing it, my controller stopped responding because I was mashing my buttons too rapidly. So I actually broke my controller trying to beat this part of the game. And I had to like stop the game. I had to take my controller apart, and I had to like repop the circle button back in. After doing that, I beat it, but I felt really cheated that a game that was so heavily built on like, it's such a tactical game. Like you have to, it's more about your mind than your skills. And to me, repeatedly bashing a button says nothing about my mind. As opposed, like I feel like as a mini game, this applies to like a Call of Duty or a Halo game, and it felt really out of place to be like, this is something you need to do for the true ending of the game, and that was just one of the many things that frustrated me.
Maybe it was.
It's
I'm sorry, just a little tidbit. Maybe it was trying to be meta, and while Snake was being tortured, you were being tortured in a way, right?
True.
So
that's how I always took
laugh.
it. That's how I always took it, because my arm would always hurt like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Which, fast forward, Naomi's like, put the controller against your arm, Snake.
I thought that was too short. I wish she gave me a longer massage.
God damn it! The thing about the torture is that's kind of like another, like, not for the story but for items. That's another branch too. Because if you can last for the first time you get tortured, and then you go in for the second time, if you submit, you get the stealth camo
After you beat the game.
After you beat the game, if you manage to do it twice, you'll get the bandana, which gives you infinite ammo.
Okay.
And you can
And it's real long.
Yeah, it's real long. But you can play through the game with one of them and then do the other one and get the other item the next time, and you'll have both, I think, is that?
Yeah, you'll get both. And you unlock Tuxedo Snake.
Yep.
Oh.
You just play the game wearing a tuxedo. And also you can get Spider-Man colors for the Cyber Ninja.
Oh, cool.
It's really weird. Or Cyborg Ninja, I apologize.
Man. My favorite part, and then we get to my favorite part of the game.
Yeah.
Which after the second time you get tortured, if you wait in the cell for a little bit, Otacon shows up, and he brings you the level 6 card, I think.
Yeah.
And then he also brings you Sniper Wolf's handkerchief, which helps with the wolves not attacking you, and ketchup. and what you're supposed to do is equip the ketchup and lay on the floor so that a guard thinks you're dead.
That's Johnny, by the way.
Johnny Sasaki. That's Mr. Johnny. And then you take him out, and that's how you escape the fucking cell.
How did you guys do it? There's a couple different ways you can break out.
I think I tried the ketchup thing, but the guard was looking at me, and he was like, "Ha ha ha! You're just faking it, or whatever."
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna
crap.
say. I love that they recorded like additional dialogue for if you fuck it up, because he's like, "Hey, wait a minute, you're just playing a trick on
Yeah.
me," or like some ridiculous.
Yeah.
What happened with you, Cam Dog?
I tried the ketchup, but for some reason it didn't spill out. You know, like whenever you actually do it, it kind of goes across the floor. That didn't happen, and I guess maybe I laid down and then equipped it, and like I don't know, certain triggering events didn't happen, but it didn't happen, and then I got called in again and had to do the torture ship for like a third time, and like at this point I was like, dear God, make this end. But I made it through it again, and then I tried the catch-up thing again. I tried hiding under the bed, and that didn't work. So yeah, the catch-up eventually worked for me.
I will say, if you wait for Johnny to go take a shit, because he will inevitably have to take a shit again, you can hide under the bed, and when he comes back out, he'll be like, "Wait a minute, what?" And he'll like come inside and be like, "Where the fuck is he?" And then you can come out and just beat his ass.
Yeah. See, the catch-up didn't work for me, and then I tried the bed, and then he came in, and I came out. Like, as I'm crawling out under the bed, he's like, "Oh, I see you," and then just fucking, like, shuts the door on my face. And I was like,
I think you can
okay.
wait and he'll like turn around.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I don't know. But if you wait, what you can do too is you can keep calling Otacon, and eventually what ends up happening is Johnny will go take a shit, and Otacon will come and unlock the door for you.
Yeah.
And he'll just be like, "You're free."
So, no matter how it happens, you do get out some way, shape, or form.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do some walking, you go back into the torture room, and you grab your stuff, and then we proceed forward to the Hind.
Yep. But we're actually gonna stop here.
Yeah. Before we go, because you did mention the DARPA chief, can we talk about Decoy Octopus for like real quick?
Yeah,
second?
fuck it. We can dive into it.
Do they talk about it later?
I think they kind of like, I think Liquid kind of reveals it, or Ocelot does later, but I also think that some, like, at this point you find
Kinda
out.
know,
Yeah, because
yeah.
I think they mention.
Oh, no. That does not happen.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think that Liquid and Ocelot, when they're talking during the torture, mention like everyone else that Snake has killed, and I think they mention like Decoy briefly there.
Yeah, they do say Decoy's name, and they do mention that that Ocelot killed the DARPA chief through torture. But and obviously you see like the body, but you don't understand, like they don't allow you, at least in the
To
story,
understand that that is Decoy Octopus.
Yeah.
Because I
They
don't
don't make
remember
that
the only
connection.
reason why I remember knowing about Decoy Octopus was the fucking manual.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was.
I mean, I
that's
think
kinda
we can talk about it obviously at this point because we've talked about it
Well,
in
Yeah.
depth. But I think it's interesting that he's the only fucking character in the game, besides the people you talk to on the codec, that like doesn't have an actual model.
No,
Like,
well, he does.
I've never seen what he looks like.
Yeah,
Well, he has his little art.
Yeah, in the manual, but like he doesn't have like a
But that's
3D.
it.
Like there's not like a game character for him.
no,
You know what I mean?
I feel like I
Well,
remember seeing something of like they do a flashback and they show him and like he's so I haven't looked in the manual, but he's like a bald dude. They do some sort of flashback with him. and they have an in-game model.
Oh, huh.
And he definitely has a model in Twin Snakes.
Yeah, he does.
So
Hold on. I just want to see if there is. I'm not seeing like a Decoy Octopus in-game model. Huh. That's really weird. I know there's a drawing of him because I've seen it like a million times. But now I'm really worried because I'm...
his creepy looking 1,000-yard stare and his huge ass forehead.
Yeah, he's got a big head.
Yeah.
He's a potato head.
He's real creepy. But yeah, so that's pretty much our wrap-up spot. I mean, you get all your shit back, which is cool. It's like in a nice little box, just like waiting for you.
But there's an addition.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, let's not forget about that shit. BT Dubs, like, you've got a bomb in your inventory. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
No.
If you equip your shit and you don't go through your inventory, you'll get a call at some point that's just like, oh, I can't remember what it is. I think you try and like go through like a metal detector or something. You do something and something triggers that like you've got something you don't. Typically.
It wasn't so much a trigger as like, I think when the timer hits like 1 minute, Deep Throat will call you. And he's like, oh shit, by the way, check your backpack. You've got a bomb in there. And like really lays it out for you. And you can just, I mean, you just like easily like, okay, I've got like a minute on this. And you just throw it away. But,
yeah. But if you forget, you will blow up.
Yeah, and if you don't make the correlation later in the game, it's kind of fucking nonsense. Something that happens in some water.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And on that note,
this was episode 2, really fucking long episode 2 of Metal Gear Mondays. It's just a box.
No, you fucked it up.
Did I?
Sam, you got to do it
Just
now.
let me do it. Just, we're outshowing. You gotta do it. It says, this has been super long episode 2 of Metal Gear Mondays, and remember, it's just a box. You have to tell them to remember.
Oh, that's right. I can't let them forget.
Dang.
Never forget. Hashtag.
It's just a box. Hashtag.
Really quickly, I found an image on Google Image Search, and it has all of the pictures of the Foxhound members that die in Metal Gear Solid. And it says, it's Psycho Mantis, and it says in big text, killed in combat. Sniper Wolf, big text, killed in combat. Vulcan Raven, huge text, consumed alive by Raven.
Oh my god.
And then for Decoy Octopus, it just says, Fox die.
Oh, God.
That's awesome.
Send me that because I want to see consumed by.
Dude, it's amazing.
Just a box.